Under the weight of familial pressure, I found myself wed to my arch-nemesis, who is also an alpha. The onset of my sensitivity period arrived prematurely, and he pinned me to the bed for 2 days and nights. In a daze, I stared at the 2 vivid crimson lines on the pregnancy test. Recalling Chin Yu's disdainful remarks about children and his loathing for the same sex, I discreetly purchased a plane ticket. On my way to the airport, my friend suddenly slammed on the brakes. I lifted my gaze to see a familiar black Maybach menacingly blocking the road. Chin Yu emerged, brandishing a medical examination report with a chilling smile. Where are you headed? Planning to elope with your illicit lover? 1. I rose from Chin Yu's bed, my body aching all over. The room was suffused with a heavy scent of pheromones that rendered my eyes unable to open. With trembling legs, I stood up to open the window, only to trip over scattered garments strewn across the floor. I covered my eyes, unable to confront the reality before me. After hastily tidying up Chin Yu's bedroom, I began to sense something unusual within myself. Damn it, that scoundrel. Not only did he take advantage of an alpha in a sensitive period, but he also neglected to use protection. The culprit lay sleeping soundly beneath the covers. I raised my fist, contemplating striking his face, but ultimately lowered my hand. It was too difficult to bring myself to do it. He looked so angelic while asleep. I retreated to my own room and plunged into the bathroom for a shower. I scrubbed vigorously, yet that sticky sensation refused to wash away. Last night, I had felt a slight fever and sought out the medicine cabinet in the living room. After taking my temperature, I discovered it was 37.8 degrees Celsius, not a fever, but I felt quite dizzy. Perhaps my sensitive period had arrived prematurely. Leaning back on the sofa, I began to feel drowsy. Suddenly, a ding echoed at the door, and the next moment it swung open. Before I could utter a word, I was forcefully pinned to the ground, his fiery lips crashing against mine. The mingling sense of alcohol and blood filled the air. Chin Yu, have you lost your mind? I exclaimed, raising my hand to slap him. Yet, rather than stopping, he intensified his actions. Back when we both transitioned into alphas, he had blocked all my contact information. After 2 years of an arranged marriage, we had tacitly treated each other as invisible. Hence, it was my first encounter with his pheromones. How bitter and unpleasant they were. Tears welled up as the pheromones uncontrollably spilled forth. I had hoped that upon smelling them, he would regain his composure. However, he did not. Instead, he confined me and brought me into his bedroom. At the moment I was pinned to the bed, all I could see were his bloodshot eyes. 2. After my shower, I collapsed onto the bed and fell into a deep slumber. It was Aunt Lu, the housekeeper, who roused me from my sleep. Thankfully, Aunt Lu had taken a day off to visit her hometown the day before, or else she might have caught me in Chin Yu. In a compromising situation, Aunt Lu brought me a meal and inquired whether I had a fever. When I glanced in the mirror, I noticed that the flush on my face had yet to subside. Embarrassed, I returned the mirror to her and offered a few perfunctory words. Remembering the person just a wall away, I asked, "Where's Chin Yu?" Aunt Lu replied, "Mr. Chin is still asleep. He has been working tirelessly these past few days. Secretary Kai just came by a moment ago. Still sleeping? Had he truly exhausted himself? He shouldn't be so worn out." I felt lively and vigorous. After a few spoonfuls of thin pork congee, I asked Aunt Lu to leave me be for a while longer. She complied, but just as she reached the door, a distinctly bony hand pushed it open. "Mr. Chin, you're awake." I quickly burrowed under the covers, holding my breath. Mr. Song just had some congee. "All right, I'll step out now." Their conversation ceased, causing my heart to race. The footsteps drew nearer. A figure I was reluctant to confront stood by my bedside. Song Chi. His voice was hoarse, laced with a hint of nasal congestion. I remained still. After a moment of silence, I felt a tremendous force yank my sanctuary away. In an instant, our gazes locked. Chin Yu appeared unrest, dark circles under his eyes and a noticeable bruise on his cheek, evidence of the slap I had delivered the previous night. 3. My mood was already foul, and his brusque actions only served to ignite my anger further. He remained silent, yet his gaze was predatory, unashamedly scrutinizing me from head to toe. Fortunately, I was clad in long-sleeved pajamas. Otherwise, those bite marks would be impossible to explain. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Yesterday, were you in my room?" "What a silly question. If I wasn't in your room, who else would you have been with?" I nodded, then suddenly realized, Chin Yu couldn't possibly have forgotten. As my mind spiraled into chaos, he gripped my shoulders tightly, his breath quickening. So you. His hold was unyielding, causing me to wince in pain. Yes, we had a fight and I won. Are you seeking revenge? A fight? I stepped back, warily eyeing him. This bruise on your face is from me. Can't you feel the pain? When an alpha is emotionally charged, they unconsciously release pheromones. And my room was now saturated with that nauseating scent I had encountered before. Chinyu withdrew his hand, repeating his question multiple times. So, it was just a fight? His eyes, dark and deep, were now somewhat terrifying, making it difficult for me to maintain eye contact. I turned my face away, covering my mouth and nose. Get out. I can hardly breathe. Fortune smiled upon me, for despite having accidentally spent the night with my adversary, he had no recollection of it. This secret was known only to the heavens and myself. Otherwise, our 2 years of maintained peace would be in jeopardy. For 3 consecutive days, Chinyu did not return home. When I next saw him, we resumed our former dynamic. Each of us occupied our own space, treating the other as though they were invisible. I had lived this way for 2 years, initially believing that I would endure for a few more years until the opportune moment for divorce arrived. But who could explain the meaning of those 2 crimson lines? I was utterly perplexed. Can an alpha really become pregnant? Had I known, I would have rather choked than buy a pregnancy test. I could have avoided this for a few more days. Raised in a free-range manner, I had never paid attention during public health classes. After transitioning into an alpha, I attended a few biology lessons, yet the teachers never mentioned that alphas could bear children. Staring at the 2 test strips in my hand for what felt like an eternity, I finally discarded them into the trash. At 10 o'clock that night, a familiar sound echoed at the door. As I dried my hands, I stepped out of the kitchen. Aunt Lou, just make something simple. Upon realizing who stood before me, I instinctively fell silent. My gaze swept over his fatigued face, and I beckoned him closer. Come here. Turning to fetch some kanji, I returned to find him quietly seated at the table after washing his hands. Chinyu, avoiding my gaze, took the bowl from me, only to furrow his brow the next moment. Seafood kanji? Aren't you allergic to seafood? His comment came effortlessly, and my response followed suit. Isn't it because you love it? I began naturally, but abruptly fell silent. How strange. It felt as if we were a couple. No, it seemed that we actually were. 5. Now he no longer avoided me, his eyes fixed intently upon mine. After clearing my throat theatrically, I urged him to eat quickly. As he daintily finished his kanji, I found myself on the verge of dozing off. Has he always eaten this slowly? If you're tired, you should go to sleep. I rubbed my temples, summoning courage, and said, Wait, I have something to tell you. As I spoke, my voice emerged raspy and hoarse. He reached out to stroke my forehead, but instinctively, I recoiled from his touch. By the time I registered my reaction, the atmosphere had plummeted to an icy chill. He rose coldly, towering over me, and remarked, If you're unwell, you should see a doctor. Before I could utter another word, he smirked faintly and added, I fail to see what could possibly warrant young Master Song waiting for my return at this hour. If it pertains to business, I've already coordinated with Mr. Song. I replied, Business? Seeing him turn to leave, I hastily stood up and called out, Chinyu. Perhaps it was due to sitting too long or the anxiety swirling within me, but my vision suddenly darkened. A pair of steady, strong hands encircled me. The bitter taste was unmistakable. As my breath quickened, I felt the body pressed against mine tense suddenly. I closed my eyes, allowing him to guide me to the bedside and offer me water. I yearned to speak, but Chinyu covered my mouth. His other hand clasped my waist with a firm grip, preventing me from turning to face him. Aside from that night, when had we ever been this close? There had been instances, but that kiss had merely been a punishment in our game, hardly counting. I heard him sigh. Stop talking. I know you don't care about those business affairs. He seemed to suppress his emotions. Just don't say anything. The pheromones emanating from Chinyu intensified. Perhaps due to my pregnancy, his scent no longer struck me as overwhelming. Instead, it provided a sense of comfort. I placed a hand on my flat abdomen and softly murmured, I'm feeling tired. After Chinyu departed, I unlocked my phone. My grandfather had sent me a message in the afternoon. Even without opening it, I knew his words would be along the lines of urging me to cherish my time with Chinyu, emphasizing that our family's business relied on him. I had grown weary of hearing it. The following afternoon, I enlisted a friend to accompany me to the hospital. Upon learning of my pregnancy, the doctor became intrigued, bombarding me with questions. The chances of an alpha becoming pregnant are slim, but they are not non-existent. There are numerous cases both domestically and abroad. He scrutinized me from head to toe. However, you are the first alpha in our hospital. I'm here to schedule an abortion. What? You're not going to keep it? The doctor's demeanor immediately soured, and he turned to the keyboard to type, all the while chiding me. You young folks have no idea about proper precautions. Now that you're pregnant, you want to terminate it, which is extremely harmful to your body, you know? I had informed my friend in advance, and he, being an alpha himself, remained silent, fearing to say the wrong thing. Yes, not my partner. The doctor's reaction was even more pronounced. Your partner isn't accompanying you to the hospital? We had a fight. He shook his head and sat back down. I recommend that, if possible, you should go to the capital for the procedure. Our hospital lacks experience with alpha abortions. I contemplated for a moment. That works. Then let's schedule it for the end of next month. Avoid spicy foods and refrain from alcohol. As I exited, I blushed and exchanged a few words with my friend. Song-chi, my heart skipped a beat, prompting me to send my friend ahead. Turning around, I found Chin Yu standing a short distance away, his suit stained crimson. What happened to you? Where are you hurt? He shook his head. I encountered a pregnant woman who was hemorrhaging. Her husband's car broke down, and I lent a hand. I sighed in relief and chuckled. A good Samaritan, I see. Chin Yu silently scrutinized my face. I gestured dismissively. I came with someone else. Are you leaving? Going home to change? Fortunately, my acting was convincing enough that Chin Yu didn't question further and followed me to the car. After that day, our relationship improved slightly, albeit only marginally. He began returning home earlier, and we shared a few dinners together. Today, Aunt Lu prepared a new dish, filling the entire living room with the aroma of food. Initially, I relished it, happily savoring several spoonfuls of the soup she had crafted. Suddenly, a wave of nausea erupted in my chest. I covered my mouth and rushed to the restroom, dry heaving. Hearing footsteps behind me, I raised a hand to stop him. I'm fine. Yet Chin Yu did not leave. Instead, he extended a hand to support me. I hadn't expelled much, so I lifted my head to glance at him. You should go outside. I'll take a moment. He remained still, prompting me to push him away with more force, at which point he finally stood and exited. I stood before the mirror, rinsing my mouth, and noticed my eyes were red-rimmed. Aunt Lu was at the dining table, rummaging through the dishes. I suspect this new dish doesn't agree with Mr. Song. We won't make it again. This gastritis is quite bothersome. Mr. Song has vomited several times these past few days and hardly ate anything this morning. The door was ajar, and I overheard her words, causing me to dry heave once more in anxiety. This vomiting is akin to that of a pregnant woman. Aunt Lu approached with concern. Mr. Song, have you taken your medication today? I was not merely vomiting. I was on the verge of fainting. I had already been sick 2 or 3 times over these few days. I had simply had a poor appetite this morning. Aunt Lu, could you please refrain from saying more? Just then, Chin Yu's voice cut through my thoughts with clarity. Song-chi, I recall you do not have gastritis. Of course, I didn't. I had always been robust and healthy. Perhaps it was due to the fact that my parents died in a car accident when I was 5, leaving no one to care for me. Thus my body could not afford to be weak. If I fell ill, no one would attend to me. Later, when I met Chin Yu, he had been a walking pharmacy, unable to consume this or that, constantly reeking of herbal medicine. It led to my first encounter with him being through climbing over the wall into his yard. I had boasted to him more than once about my strong physique. After splashing water on my face, I turned and feigned composure. It's just age catching up. Don't look at me that way. You work so hard every day. In a few years, you'll be riddled with ailments. Chin Yu fixed his gaze on me as I returned to the table and devoured another 2 bowls of rice. I felt as if I were sitting on pins and needles, eager to finish my meal and escape. That night, I dreamt once more. First, the fragments were a chaotic blur, but gradually I remembered clearly, for Chin Yu was there. In my dream, he appeared youthful, clad in a school uniform jacket. Shangji, the doctor said, I'm about to differentiate. What gender do you think I will become? Isn't the probability of differentiation the same? Every gender has its merits. He rested his chin on his hand, the softness of his cheeks squishing together. I offered him a piece of gum, which he accepted with a parting of his lips, and the gentle sensation lingered at my fingertips before vanishing. Young Chin Yu still seemed rather morose, his emotions plainly written across his face. He grasped my hand earnestly and said, Song-chi. I leaned in closer until I could hear his breath. Promise me, no matter what gender we differentiate into, you will always be good to me. The dreamscape abruptly froze. I still vividly recalled my response from that time. I said, we will always be good friends. Yet he did not release his furrowed brow, nor did he nod or affirm my words. Was he dissatisfied? But that was the best promise I could offer at the time. Why was he still unhappy? Why did he stop talking to me after I differentiated? Why did he ask me what I wanted him to say? A sudden pain throbbed at my temples. I rubbed my temples and absent-mindedly wiped my face, only to realize that it was streaked with tears. Soon, the Mid-Autumn Festival arrived, and as per tradition, the Chin family gathered for a meal, and I joined them. This had become a custom since my marriage to Chinyu. Previously, I had always celebrated the festivals alone, as my grandfather had numerous descendants and my absence was inconsequential. Fearing that something might go awry during dinner, I took some anti-nausea medication to ease my apprehension before heading to the Chin household. At the dining table, I sat beside Chinyu, my gaze lowered as I focused on my food. Nearby, Chinyu's aunt brought over a small infant, cooing. Children are adorable at this age, but once they grow a bit and start talking, they can be quite a handful. This was the son of Chinyu's cousin, whom we had visited in the hospital upon his birth last year. The child extended his chubby hands toward me, and finding it amusing, I offered my hand in return. He wants you to hold him, quickly. Xiao-Qi, the aunt said, gently placing the baby into my arms. Good boy, Uncle Xiao-Qi is holding you. The infant felt impossibly soft in my embrace. Though it was not my first time holding a child, watching him grunt and reach out with his little hands made my heart melt. Perhaps because I too was nurturing a small life within me. The aunt, noticing my delight, turned to Chinyu's father and remarked, the child is indeed well behaved, but he has trouble sleeping at night, which can be quite troublesome. As I listened to their conversation, I glanced at Chinyu beside me and found his gaze fixed intently upon me. Would you like to hold him? I offered, passing the child to him. Just as I placed the infant into his arms, the discussion among Chinyu's father and the aunt shifted back to the topic of children. Chinyu's father sighed. His father and I have long wished to have grandchildren. The aunt interjected quietly. What are you saying? How could two alphas possibly have children? Although their voices were hushed, our proximity made it impossible to miss their words. I felt a wave of embarrassment wash over me, resting my palm on my abdomen. Chinyu's voice broke through from beside me. Dad, I've told you before that I don't want children. Chinyu's father hurriedly replied, your health has improved. Can't you be like before? After realizing his mistake in broaching the subject, he excused himself to fetch some drinks and left the living room. The atmosphere turned less jovial than it had been, but thankfully, my cousin and her wife were chatty, sparing us from an awkward silence during the meal. On the way back, I sat in the passenger seat, feeling drowsy. Don't overthink it. Dad isn't pressuring you for children. Chinyu reassured me. I nodded with my eyes closed, knowing that it was impossible for me anyway. I don't like children, and I won't want any in the future, I replied quietly, turning my gaze toward him. The vibrant lights outside the car window illuminated his profile, though it appeared somewhat blurred in the glow. I managed a half-smile. Is that so? I chose to ignore the rest of his words and surrendered to sleep. When I awoke, I found myself in my own room. My clothes changed. A glance at my phone revealed it was 1:30 in the morning. After a brief struggle, I dialed the number of the doctor I had consulted previously. Yes. Could you arrange the soonest possible surgery? I'm booking my ticket now. It's urgent. All right, thank you, doctor. After the doctor made the necessary arrangements, I purchased a ticket for a flight in 3 days. It was my first time visiting the capital, and it was for a procedure to terminate a pregnancy. A friend drove me to the airport, offering words of comfort during the ride. It's going to be all right, Xiao-Qi. The doctor assured me it's a minor operation. If you're really scared, I can accompany you. I rolled my eyes. Are you willing to risk your job for me? After exchanging some banter, my mood lightened a bit. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror. Pale, haggard, with dark circles under my eyes. It was all Chinyu's fault. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be enduring this torment. Frustrated, I tugged at my hair and leaned back. Suddenly, my friend slammed on the brakes, reaching out to shield me while muttering curses as he unbuckled his seatbelt. I patted my chest and looked ahead, spotting a familiar car parked diagonally not far in front of us. I quickly pressed my hand down. Don't get out. I'll handle this. The door of the car swung open, and Chinyu stepped out in a suit, his hair somewhat disheveled. I broke into a cold sweat, bewildered as to why he was here. My words faltered as I watched him pull out a health report from his pocket, his smile unsettling. Where are you going? Off to elope with your lover? In that moment, it felt as if the sky had fallen. Who leaked this information? My head spun and I stumbled slightly. Yu reached out to steady me, gripping my wrist with a force that stung. Come back with me. His command left me no room to refuse. I shot a glance at my friend and followed Yu back to the car. Inside, silence enveloped us. I dared not speak first, my mind a chaotic mess. Is it him? Yu's sudden voice shattered the stillness. I hesitated and quickly shook my head. Yet, his expression darkened further. Are there others? I see. Is it Wang Shun? You've met him before. Shun? Yes, we had crossed paths. He went to California for college immediately after high school but returned a few times each year for meals together. How did he come into this? As I searched my memories, Yu's icy voice pierced through again. Of course, old flames often rekindle. His baseless accusations provoked me, and I retorted, Are you out of your mind? Stop spreading rumors. What did I say wrong? I witnessed him twirling you around back in high school. His sudden increase in volume startled me. That was all in jest. But wait, he had unilaterally severed ties with me back then. How did he know about Shun? Suppressing my anger, I replied, He's been abroad for 7 years. Can you please refrain from making baseless claims? Indeed, had he not gone abroad, you wouldn't have married me 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Marriage. I unbuckled my seatbelt. Furious. Pull over. Yu inhaled deeply and halted the car at the roadside. Unexpectedly, I raised my hand and slapped him hard. I didn't hold back, and my palm tingled with the impact. Yu, let me reiterate. Our marriage was decided by my grandfather and your parents. It was not my coercion. You had options, a retreat, a choice. I had none. Why do you take your anger out on me? After shouting those words, I gasped for air and noticed a hint of red staining the corner of Yu's mouth. I froze. Yu wiped away the trace of blood, his gaze sharp. So, is it him? You don't want to marry me because you have feelings for him. What a love it must be, especially since you got someone pregnant. Fury surged within me, a buzzing in my ears drowning out his voice. He continued to speak, his lips moving, each gesture fueling my rage. Those lips had once whispered the sweetest words to me in our youth, had kissed me in a playful moment, and had brought me both ecstasy and anguish. I loathed them with a burning intensity. Stop talking. I seized Yu's collar and leaned in, biting his lip. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth, yet I found it exhilarating, sucking and nibbling harder until I tasted bitterness. Yu was crying. Silent tears streamed down his cheeks. Did I hurt you? I asked, feeling helpless. He shook his head, his eyes glistening with tears. Having never comforted someone in tears before, I relied on instinct to soothe him. I won't hit you anymore, I won't bite you either, alright? Please stop crying. Upon uttering those words, his sobs abruptly ceased for a few seconds. Subsequently, he unfastened his seatbelt, leaned over, and forcefully pressed me against the car door. His damp cheek brushed against mine as he captured my lips, violating me thoroughly. This was entirely different from my earlier bites. His touch was tender yet penetrating, invoking an involuntary shiver within me. We exchanged kisses in the vehicle, and when we finally parted, both our lips were swollen beyond recognition. Yu retrieved a tissue to wipe the drool from my chin before he began to tidy up his tear-streaked face. I gazed at him and sighed. Is it really worth crying over just a slap? You're the one who is cheating on me and scolding me. He glared at me. Are you not supposed to cry when you're going to have a child with someone else? I fell silent. We could keep it, but you must take care of the child, and you are not allowed to contact Wang Shun again. I was taken aback. But I thought you didn't tea like children? Yu gritted his teeth. If I don't keep the child, won't you just run off with that bastard? Foolishness. Who insults themselves like that? After a moment of speechless disbelief, I praised, Qin Shao, you truly are magnanimous. He shook his head vigorously, refusing to look at me. Unfortunately, you'll be disappointed. This child is yours. Yu stood frozen, shock evident in his eyes. He turned towards me like an old robot, disbelief filling his gaze. I frowned. Don't believe me? It was 2 months ago when we fought late at night. You probably don't remember. July 18th. He stated the exact date without hesitation. Remarkable memory. I nodded with my eyes closed. After a tense silence of several seconds, Yu exclaimed, that night I was drugged. By the time I was in the car home, my consciousness was already hazy. It wasn't intentional that I forgot. I suddenly opened my eyes. Someone tried to put someone in my bed, but I went home, as you know. Well done. That showed restraint, a thumbs up. After a brief pause, I continued, don't feel burdened. I went to the capital specifically for an abortion, and I've already scheduled the procedure. His arm gripped mine tightly. Qin Yu's breath quickened. You want to terminate the pregnancy? Why didn't you tell me? Seeing him play the victim, I retorted, I didn't say anything? That day I made you porridge in preparation to confess. Wasn't it you who told me not to say anything? He looked bewildered. You were going to say this that day? I thought you were going to. Going to what? Qin Yu stammered. I thought you were going to bring up divorce. Indeed, art stems from life. I finally understood where the frantic plots in novels and dramas originated. I nudged him. Couldn't you just ask me directly? He countered, couldn't you just say it directly? I hastily waved my hands. Stop. Quiet. It was becoming increasingly reminiscent of those mindless romance films. Qin Yu reached out, his hand resting on my abdomen, then looked up at me, his eyes sparkling. I swatted his hand away, but he stubbornly pressed closer, wrapping his arms around me. Don't tease me, he whispered. I'm not. I'm just hugging you. And the baby. I remained silent. Qin Yu spoke rapidly. I was just talking nonsense before. I don't dislike children, nor am I annoyed by alphas. Truly, it's all my fault. I maintained my indifferent expression. If your kindness towards me is solely because of the child, then you needn't say any more. When have I not been kind to you? Since I differentiated at 16. Years of grievances suddenly surged within me, and just as I was about to voice my indignation, Qin Yu buried his head in the crook of my neck. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Those two phrases repeated endlessly. Hey, why aren't you coming out to play? I grasped the iron gate with both hands, straining my head to peer inside. The child, who was half a head shorter than me, seemed somewhat frightened and took a step back. Then I'll leave. No sooner had I finished speaking than he hurriedly chased after me a few steps. I can't leave the yard. I laughed carefree. Just wait for me. Glancing at the wall's height, I climbed up the adjacent tree and, after considerable effort, managed to scale over. I landed with a thud, and he dashed over to crouch beside me, the strong scent of traditional Chinese medicine wafting from him as he breathed heavily. Xiaoyu? What's that noise? A middle-aged woman in an apron swiftly exited the room, her eyes wide with surprise as she looked at us. Is he your friend? After a few seconds of silence, he nodded. Yes, we're playing. The woman offered a few words of caution before turning back to the kitchen, leaving the two children staring at each other. I sat up and brushed off the dust from my clothes. I'm Song Chi. What's your name? Qin Yu. The rain from the sky? No. He took my hand and traced this character for you. The cool touch glided across my palm, tickling me. However, the conversation soon dwindled. Thus, we remained in silence, gazing at each other, until half an hour had passed. I stood up. Well, I'm leaving. Qin Yu responded with a soft then asked, will you come to play with me again? Sure, I'll climb the wall to find you next time. Don't. I looked at him. Huh? Climbing the wall is dangerous. I'll open the door for you. As he spoke, he pulled out a set of keys from his pocket. I was at a loss for words. Why didn't you open the door for me earlier? I didn't know you wanted to come in. Qin Yu hesitated, then softly asked, will you stay and play a while longer? Auntie's cooking is really delicious. Seeing him a bit anxious, I graciously allowed him to take my hand as we walked into the beautiful villa. Young Qin Yu was thin and shy, and perhaps due to his family's prolonged absence, he developed a hint of inferiority. I, on the other hand, was entirely different. I had always been boisterous, despite the Song family's indifference towards me. After my parents passed away, I remained with my grandfather, but he had so many descendants that he hardly cared whether I was there or not. Thus, I was raised in a free-range manner until I differentiated at 16. When my grandfather finally took notice, he brought me to the hospital for a checkup, only to discover my low-ranking alpha status, after which he abandoned me and sent me to a boarding school without a second thought. I consoled myself that at least I was free, no longer subjected to the disdain of that household. Yet it was during that time that Qin Yu suddenly cut off all contact with me. 3 years later, I unexpectedly found myself enrolled in the same university as him, learning from friends that he had long since differentiated into a superior alpha. Time had washed away all my anger, so when I saw him at the orientation, I was no longer upset. I longed to embrace him, but after 3 years apart, how had he grown taller than me? Was he in good health? Did he still take medicine throughout the year? Didn't he want to attend a university? Why was he here instead? Amidst the sea of people, he seemed to sense something, glancing my way for a brief moment. Then nothing happened. There was no recognition, no inquiries, as if we were strangers. We were so in sync, neither of us daring to disturb the other. However, I was quite the social butterfly at school. And when we reached the private room, I learned that the birthday girl's boyfriend was Chin Yu's roommate. We sang happy birthday together, and the birthday girl added 2 cans of beer, suggesting we play a game. 6 people in a group roll the dice. Those who roll the same number must drink from a shared cup. In the first round, 3 people rolled the same number 3, and they clumsily interlocked their arms to drink. After a few rounds, someone, perhaps tipsy, suggested changing the punishment to kissing. I rolled a 6, and to my astonishment, I was pushed dizzyingly towards Chin. I thought to myself, isn't he in another group? When did he join us? Amidst the raucous cheers, he made the first move. His palm pressed against the back of my head, and his lips were already upon mine. It was so warm, so scorching. The moment our lips met, he withdrew, and before I could comprehend what had just happened, he had released his grip. I placed my fingers on my lips, the sound of revelry resonating around us as a group of intoxicated revelers fought over the microphone. I reached out to him, whispering hoarsely, Chin. I received no reply before I succumbed to unconsciousness. When I awoke, I found myself tightly embraced, struggling to breathe. I reflected on the events of my dream about university and did not push Chin away. Wake up, he murmured. He shifted beneath the covers, his arms tightening around my waist. After a brief interval, Chin, his hair tousled, sat up and greeted me with a cheerful, "Good morning, wife." A shiver ran down my spine at his words. "Don't call me that." "Then what should I call you?" he asked, encircling me with his arms. "Husband." After I delivered a sharp slap to his arm, he finally settled down, insisting on taking me to the hospital for a checkup. Aunt Lou beamed as she presented me with the nutritious meal she had hurriedly prepared overnight. I glanced at the dishes on the table and gave her a thumbs up. Had she not discovered the medical report in the trash while cleaning, I might have already found myself on the operating table. But why did she have to rummage through the trash? Upon arriving at the hospital, we encountered the same doctor as before, who scheduled an ultrasound and began to inquire about my condition. I replied, "But we're fine now, so there's no need for an abortion. Both of you are quite handsome. Such fine genes," he commented. As we awaited several more tests, Chin and I sat together in the doctor's office. Suddenly, the doctor hurried in, his expression grave. "Come with me. Family members stay behind." Seeing his serious demeanor, I feared something was wrong with the baby and quickly followed him out. After another round of examinations, he returned with a stack of documents, his brow furrowed. Chin appeared tense. "Doctor, what is going on?" I took his hand to reassure him. The silence in the office was suffocating. "Mr. Song, you are not pregnant. The previous test results were a false positive for alpha, not a genuine pregnancy." I was bewildered. What did he mean by false positive? Chin, having been well-versed in biology since childhood, remained calm and quickly interjected, "Is there any harm to her health?" I gazed at them, my mind spinning. So, I wasn't pregnant? Then what had I been doing all these days? One arm gently wrapped around me. It wasn't until we exited the hospital that I regained my senses. "Are you feeling unwell?" Chin asked, fastening my seatbelt and checking my forehead. I shook my head in silence. He leaned closer over the steering wheel, smiling at me. His eyes bright with the same glimmer they had in his youth, and my heart softened instantly. "It's a false pregnancy. There's no baby." I finally sighed, my expression turning melancholic. Chin replied, "But you are my baby." I was taken aback. "Could you refrain from being so cheesy?" My words shattered the atmosphere, and he burst into hearty laughter, leaning in to kiss me. I'm actually grateful for this unexpected turn of events. Without it, we might have been bound to a contractual marriage for life. I questioned, "Didn't we agree to divorce in a few years?" "What do you mean for life?" Chin paused, then firmly grasped my cheeks and planted 2 fervent kisses on my lips. "We've already registered our marriage. Do you think you can escape?" Seeing my flustered reaction, he beamed and started the car, declaring, "Let us go home. I have something for you." "Are you referring to your diary?" I had expected something like a magnificent 7-carat diamond ring. I looked at the cover, where the name Chin was written in a crooked manner, and critically remarked, "I can't decipher what it says." Chin stared at me for a moment, seemingly at a loss. "Then I'll read it to you." I evaded his hand and flipped to the first page myself. 0766. I met Song Chi, he said he would come to see me every day. Happy. 09917. Dad and Daddy came back to keep me company, but Song Chi said his parents passed away long ago. So I let them leave in the evening and went to play with Song Chi. 12:3:4. Song Chi has many friends, but I can't play ball, so I can't accompany him. Why can't he just play with me alone? I hate him. 15:11:3. The doctor said I'm about to differentiate. Song Chi said that no matter what gender we become, we will always be the best of friends. Just friends. 16:3:14. I differentiated. I'm an alpha and so is Song Chi. What should I do? The biology class said that the pheromones of alphas are mutually exclusive. He will surely dislike my scent, and I don't want to see him anymore. 17:5:16. Why is he hugging and holding others? Song Chi, I hate you. You're good with others. I want to come to see you again. 19:3:24. Song Chi is at this university. Look at me, don't hide. 19:1:4. I went to my roommate's girlfriend's birthday party. He was also there. I snatched the dice from someone and kissed him. He seemed very angry. I guess I should listen to my roommate. Liking someone means respecting them and making concessions. I was too impulsive. Can his friends celebrate a few more birthdays? I have time. 22:7:30. Something happened at the Song family. Song Chi's so-called grandfather is preparing to send him away for investment. That old man better watch out. I'll get someone to deal with him. 22:9:5. I secretly married without telling Dad and Daddy. Yes, the groom is the person I've always liked, and I'm happy. Thanks to Song Chi's grandfather for the assistance. But just wait for me. After reading, I felt a swirl of emotions. This was far from a diary. It was clearly a record of a perverse daily routine. Could those hastily glanced over entries be exposed? Putting them out there would warrant a 10-year ban. Get away from me. I love you too. I was taken aback. Chin Yu paused in his motion to reach into his pocket. Shouldn't you be tearfully confessing your feelings to me right now? Don't tell me this was another scheme devised by your university roommate. His gaze shifted away. I sighed and cupped his face. Why do you think I would dislike the alpha you've become? The doctor said when I differentiated that my pheromones are highly aggressive. He said, his eyes beginning to glisten with unshed tears, and you later said my scent was overwhelming. I wiped his tears away, thinking to myself, it was indeed quite overpowering. However, had he not severed ties with me back then, I would have described even the pungent scent as fragrant. In the end, it was all Chin Yu's fault. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Finally, he retrieved the box from his clothing, kneeling before me. Let me make up for the proposal. Seeing that I had not reacted, he grew anxious, stammering, I'll make up for the time. I will always be with you. And love. I interrupted, no need. He looked at me with longing. I took the ring and placed it on his finger before adorning my own. I know you have never ceased to love me. The end of the text. Thank you for listening, and we shall meet again in the next story.